Good evening, everybody. My name is Lauren DiFilippo from the Bridgewater Democratic Town Committee, and I am joined by
Peter Linares from the Bridgewater Republican Town Committee.
And we are here for night 2 of our candidate forums with candidates for Bridgewater Raynham Regional School District Committee. So just to give you a heads up on how this works, we sent letters to all the certified candidates who gathered enough signatures to be listed on the ballot and provided questions that were come up with by members of both the Republican and Democratic Town Committee, and those questions were provided to the candidates in advance. So we will start with their opening statements, and we will begin with Laura.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting us and having this opportunity to speak before everyone. My name is Laura Conrad Labyrinto. I'm a Raynham resident. I have lived in Raynham for a little over 20 years at this point with my spouse and my 3 children. I've been on school committee for 3 years already, so this will be my 4th year if I'm elected. I previously on school committee held I was the chair of the long range planning. I am currently the chair of negotiations, and I am currently the chair of the school committee. As I said before, I live in Raynham with my spouse and my 3 children. I have had my 3 children are in all levels of the school, elementary, middle, and public high school. I am running for school committee because I believe in public education. I believe in supporting our students in the schools, including at the high school level. My background, I come to this with over 25 years of experience working within bureaucratic government systems. I've worked within the state of Massachusetts as a state employee for 20 plus years, working and developing and designing kids' behavioral health programs. My background is I have a master's degree in social work that has enabled me to work within the behavioral health space for many, many years. I will say, I think, again, part of my commitment to running for school committee is I believe in our schools. I believe in the staff and our administration. And I want to continue to support them and support our kids. And my way of doing that is being a school committee member and lifting up the priorities of the district and lifting up the priorities of our kids and our families within the district. If people are interested more about me and my commitment and what I stand for, they can, I have a social media page on Facebook. They can reach me through those means.
Thank you. Tim?
Thank you. My name's Tim Fitzgibbons. I'm from Bridgewater. I'm here to ask for one of your 2 votes, April 27th for school committee. I would very much appreciate that. I've been involved in the town for almost 30 years now, more if you count coaching youth baseball and basketball and so on. I've held almost every position you can think of in the town council, school committee, board of assessors, chair of the advisory board, etc. You can find out all about my background at Tim for BR on Facebook. And that's a 4, the number 4. And despite what Bill Wood told you last week, I invented that. He stole it from me. That's a joke, Bill. And so really, I'd like to echo what Laura said. Why am I running? We're in some very tough fiscal times, as everyone who's looked at their paycheck and looked at their grocery bill knows. They just don't add up anymore. And they don't add up anymore in municipalities either. But what we really have to do, and what I really want to maintain focus on, and what I've been trying to do for the last 3 years on the school committee, is ensure that every dollar we can gets as close to the children of the district as possible. We lower class sizes, we help children learn better, etc. We don't spend money outside of that unnecessarily. And that's really what I'm running on. That's really what I'd like to continue to do. It's been a privilege and a pleasure to work with Ms. Conrad over the last 3 years. We've gotten a lot accomplished, and I look forward to continuing to work with whomever's elected to the school committee for the next 3 years. Thank you.
Michael?
Well, first, thank you, Laura and Peter, for this opportunity at BTV. My name is Michael Loesch. I'm a Bridgewater resident. I've been here since about 2009 with my wife and my 3 children. My background is I'm a lifetime educator. I've been a special ed administrator in Boston, Fall River, and now locally in Whitman-Hanson. And starting July 1st, I'll be the executive director at South Shore Collaborative, in Hingham. my motivation for running really is, one, I have two children within the district. My son Carter attends the Williams, and my son Grayson attends the Mitchell, and I have a daughter who will be soon to follow. I've definitely been involved over the past couple of years in the school building committee for the Mitchell, along with coaching throughout the community. I really thought it was just time to get more further involved and be able to collaborate with the district on policy and financial issues to help bring the experience I've had on the other side of the table in terms of presenting and working with school committees to really kind of the more member side for Bridgewater.
All right, thank you. You want to? Okay. All right, so next up, we're going to do questions. So we're going to randomly pick them from this great little bag here. And you'll have 2 minutes. You will be on a timer to answer them. Not that we're going to shut you off right away, but it's just a warning that you're at your 2 minutes. So I'll pick the first one. And
One.
One.
I know. And we'll start with Laura. So what impact has DEI/SEL had on education? Is it a net positive or a net negative?
So I would start out and say I think DEI and SEL, there's a lot of misunderstanding about what it is and how it's been implemented or thought about within education. I would say, diversity, equity, inclusion, and social emotional learning have had a net gain in schools. I believe, especially around the social emotional learning. If you expect kids to come in and learn, they need to be able to want to be there, to be healthy, to be happy. And if you have a child that is a youth at the table that is frustrated, dysregulated, hungry, then they can't actually focus to be able to learn. So addressing SEL or having an SEL curriculum in schools is very impactful and has very much a positive impact on kids. And I will say DEI, I think it has a net gain in schools. Anything we can do to help kids, be exposed to other races, but and also disability. I think DEI goes beyond just kind of race. I think it's also disability and many other things. So I think all of those have had a positive impact on kids within schools.
All right, thank you, Laura. Tim?
I would tend to agree with Ms. Conrad that it's generally been a net positive for students. And I'll just talk about one student I know in particular who is on the autism spectrum, neurodiverse, as folks like to say, and is appropriate to say. I've kept in touch with their parents because they were concerned about how he would navigate the system, and the system has worked very well for him. His fellow students have accepted him. He's been able to negotiate the system between regular ed and sub-separate classrooms, and on those times where the mom's been really worried about, can I even get this kid to go to school tomorrow because of how he was acting, when he came home today, and suggesting let's have him talk to the school psychiatrist, to the guidance counselor, etc. And that kind of social emotional learning, where it puts the child back into a situation where they're ready to go out and learn. Again, anything that helps the child learn better and learn in the most appropriate way possible for them. I think that's what those, quote unquote, scary acronyms mean sometimes, is, bring it down to one child's level and how best do they learn. And it's really worked out well for that child. And that's what I can say about that.
All right, thanks, Tim. Mike?
So I think both areas really have the potential to have a huge impact within school districts. Specifically, social emotional learning really applies to multiple areas that impact students' lives on a daily basis. How are they navigating challenging situations with peers and in the classroom? How are they doing it outside in the community? And those skills are very transferable later in life too, as it shows also measures of how successful we are as adults. I think, that's an area that needs to be prioritized for all students because our kids are facing more challenging situations to navigate on a daily basis between social media, between, developing friends and finding peer groups. These are areas our students need guidance and skills in and really need to be able to address within schools to be able to navigate life effectively. Along that same lines with diversity, equity, and inclusion, our students definitely need exposure to all different people from all different walks of life, disability, race, cultures. To give kind of two examples, one thing was great when my older child with Williams came home today, talked to us about how another student in the class taught them about Ramadan. Which, I don't necessarily know if, like, when I was in school, did I ever learn about that? I learned about that as an adult. So the fact they're doing this now, I think is tremendous that they're getting this exposure within school and learning about these things, about their peers, and how they celebrate and look at life. Along those same lines too, being a special educator, and really having the privilege of someone who grew up with a mother who has a disability, if you don't get exposed to disability throughout your life, it becomes kind of a knowledge gap. And you don't learn, and it's hard to kind of gain that later in life. It's only something you learn if you're exposed to and know. So I think having those opportunities for our students is critical. I think it was the Mitchell also had a disability awareness fair the other day that they posted on social media that really has the chance to impact students in a very positive way and learn about some of the things their peers are facing, or sometimes recognize about themselves. We have a lot of adults who grow up and don't realize they may have disability till later on in life because that wasn't necessarily a part of their schooling. So both really do have tremendous ability to be impactful for our students in schools.
All right, thank you.
Question 2. We'll start with Tim for this one. What are the most critical issues facing the Bridgewater-Raynham Regional School District? How will you advocate for solutions?
The most critical issue these days is the budget. What we're able to afford to do for our students and how we can make our dollars go as far in the right direction as we can. And when I say right direction, what I mean is, as I said earlier in my opening statement, putting dollars as close to children in the classroom as we can to make the most impact on learning for those students. And people have heard, it's not a secret, it's been said many times by the superintendent that we had a $3 million gap between what we expected state funding to be and what we actually got from state funding this year. That's required incredible work by the superintendent in conjunction with his staff and in conjunction with the budget committee, which both Ms. Conrad and myself are on, to come up with solutions, creative solutions, to be able to make sure that we're closing that gap with as minimal impact. I'm not going to say no impact because it's not going to be no impact. I'm not going to lie to anyone, but with as minimal impact as we can to the students of the district. And so that's the number one concern. We have to advocate stronger at the state level to fund regional transportation. We are entitled to 100% reimbursement for regional transportation. Generally, we get around 70 to 80%. Bridgewater-Raynham is the largest Chapter 71 recipient in the state and loses out annually on at least $250,000 between what we're entitled to and what the state deems appropriate to send our way. So that's the big issue to me.
Same question.
So I definitely agree with Tim. I think the current budget issues that the towns are facing are significant. And I think that really trickles down into the rest of the areas of the school that limits our abilities in terms of things like class size, offerings to students, Frankly, and also, believe negotiations. It's going to really impact multiple areas that are really going to impede our district to be able to really provide the best education we can for students. I think that on top of that, post-COVID, we're really looking at a different student within our classrooms. Our children are definitely learning in different methods, and we need to really be able to keep up with that and to be able to instruct them appropriately to meet their needs. I think as well, coming out of that too, we have students with a lot of different social emotional needs that are presenting on a daily basis. And I think this is something that is spread, worldwide. And we need to make sure that we're keeping up with their needs and really addressing it within the classrooms and in our capacities.
Thank you. Same question, Laura?
So I'll echo. I think the budget is the biggest priority affecting our district at this point. And I would just say that given the state funding and that foundation funding and how it's been developed, it's not just an issue for Bridgewater Raynham. It is an issue statewide. We're hearing of, Brookline, Braintree laying off 20 plus staff, and other districts all around us laying off staff. So again, that budget trickles down to our class sizes, to supporting our youth, keeping them in school, retaining and recruiting qualified staff to be in our classrooms. So again, I would just say is how do we think about that budget? The superintendent and his staff have done a really, they've tried to do a really good job of trying to trimming and cutting where possible. But as Mr. Fitzgibbon said, that again, we cannot promise that there will not be layoffs. And so it's how do we work with our state legislators, and how do we work with our towns around thinking and supporting our kids and supporting BR. So BR is a district where families want to move and enroll their kids.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next question. Start with Michael. All right, Mike. In your opinion, what are the most important functions / duties of the Public Schools Committee?
Yep. So I think really we're looking at two specific areas in terms of finance and policy, really helping guide and shape the budget, as well as develop policies that are reflective of the school community and the community at large, and really partnering with our superintendent, our administrative teams in the district to support the work that they're driving for the district, but also making sure that it is reflective of the town itself. And that we're keeping that collaborative relationship and really being transparent across both parties to make sure that everyone is well informed, so that we're creating and providing the best guidance we can.
All right, same question to you, Laura.
So I would say two of the main priorities are, one is the budget and having a budget. I would say the other priority is really around hiring a superintendent, holding a superintendent accountable for our goals as a school committee. Last summer of 23, we adopted a 3-year student success plan, a new one. And so how are we collaborating and holding our superintendent accountable for what's in there, which again, when we have a difficult budget, it makes it really hard to implement and move that student success forward. But those are those are the priorities that the school committee is most important to us as a school committee.
All right, thank you, Laura. And Tim.
Yeah, the two jobs written into Mass General Law for the school committee to do, well, actually three, is set the budget, set policy for the district, and evaluate the superintendent. Hire new superintendents when it becomes necessary, and all three really require something else that's very important to me, and that I've tried to do these last 3 years, is to hear from the public. What should our priorities be in budgeting? What should our policies be in running the school district the way the district wants it to be run? How should we look at hiring a superintendent, and what does it mean to be a good superintendent of Bridgewater Raynham Regional School District? And so I committed when I ran to hold monthly office hours, and I've done that for the most part, except the one time I caught COVID. I didn't want to expose anyone, so I didn't come out. But you know, you know, in addition to the legal parts of what we have to do, it is very important, and I believe I speak for everyone on the school committee when I say this, to hear what the public has to say as well, because ultimately we serve the public. You know, we're not here to tell the public to serve us. No, it's the exact opposite way. And I certainly want to continue to be able to listen to the public.
Okay, thank you.
Next one. We'll start with Laura for this one. There's currently a ballot question being proposed that would remove the MCAS as a graduation requirement for high school students. What are your thoughts on this question?
So I would say is I don't support MCAS being a graduation requirement from high school. Kids learn in a lot of different ways, and I don't think MCAS accurately displays and portrays a kid's ability. I do support MCAS happening because they actually give the ability. It's a one-time shot, and it compares school districts and how well they are doing. But I don't think it should be a requirement to graduate. And as a parent with a child that's on that has an IEP and special education that has struggled academically, the MCAS mean nothing to him. And whether he passes or fails is not going to mean it's really. It causes a lot of stress in kids' lives, and I think our teachers sometimes have gotten the message through no fault of the administration, but from the state and lots of different people that they should be teaching to MCAS, and it has changed the focus of teaching in the curriculum in the classroom. So I do believe if it wasn't a requirement to graduate, if it was not a requirement to graduate, it would change kind of the modality and the teaching that happens in our classroom, and our students may actually do better.
Very good.
Same question, Tim.
I generally agree with Ms. Conrad on that. As a graduation requirement, I find it lacking in a certain way. I remember years ago having a conversation with Warren Kelson, who was principal at the Williams Middle School at the time, around what does an A mean. That's a shout out to Jim Dupont, actually. And so, you know, an A on the report card says outstanding effort according to ability. Well, there are many, many students who put outstanding effort according to their ability into their schoolwork every day. But unfortunately, because they're neurodiverse or for whatever other reasons, they can't pass a single high stakes test. I don't think that's right to keep them from graduating from high school. You know, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, the fish is never going to win, right? So, but I do also agree with Ms. Conrad to the extent that it does provide valuable data on how the district is doing. We have a base content that we can understand. Are these students doing well, not so well? When you control for different variables, are we doing better than average, worse than average? And allow us to understand and help teachers, administrators, even the superintendent to queue up, you know, better pedagogical functions to be able to get the information across to students.
Thank you. Same question, Mike.
I definitely agree with both my peers here. One, we're jumping into MCAS season right now. One, it can be incredibly disruptive to students who rely on routine, daily experience, and just, you know, the test itself is very anxiety provoking for a lot of students. It's also very disruptive to our school staffs. They really have to change their entire environment, their schedule, the way we look at support and kids enter. their school day, that this really takes away from learning, and we're dedicating entire school days just to these tests. In addition to that, as noted prior, this really is a disservice to the majority of students with disabilities. For many of them, it is the one determining factor that prevents them from getting a high school diploma. So we're putting them in a significant disadvantage going out into the working world. Looking at this, we have a lot of students who have many other skills, many other strengths that are going to be very applicable in post-secondary world. However, we're denying them from getting a high school diploma because we have this one test in place. And then really it's multiple tests, right? We have different subjects that they all have to pass and get through in order to move forward in this. So I'm definitely not in favor of it being a graduation requirement. Being someone who also, I grew up in New York where we had different levels of diploma. There was Regents, which is similar to the MCAS, but you could also just get a general diploma. That if you met your credit requirement, you could move forward and still say you had a high school diploma leaving there. I think we definitely need at least more options. We know there's going to be some sort of measure in place to see how kids are doing, but I don't think necessarily MCAS is doing a good job of that at this point.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next question. I think you're up, Tim, to start. What do you see as the district's largest capital / infrastructure needs at this time?
The district, okay. This gets into what is the district, right? If we look at Bridgewater Rainham as a K-12 pre-K to actually postgraduate now institution, I can tell you the most important capital need in the district is in Rainham at the elementary school level. I am not allowed to refer to her as my oldest Rainham friend. I'm to refer to her as my longest time Rainham friend. And she went to the Merrill School and the La Liberty School, and they were old when she went to the school. And really, those spaces need to be upgraded and rehabbed. We have a state of the art, if you will, pre-K to 2 school in the Mitchell School now, having just been built. And, one of the things that's really important that a lot of folks don't think about is the ability to have the same level of programming in Bridgewater and Rainham, because as I say, Bridgewater and Rainham generally run separate elementary schools up through 8th grade, and then they come together in the high school. That's the first time we're really a district with students together, right? So, but it's important to have the students below the 8th grade level exposed to same curriculum, same type of programming, ability to engage in STEM research, et cetera, et cetera. And to me, I can't not say that the elementary level at Rainham is the highest priority on a capital list for me for the district.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Mike.
I definitely think there are several issues that are kind of pending for the district in terms of facilities. One, definitely the Rainham Elementary Schools. Two, I think, after having my son go through Bridgewater Middle School as the K-2, that's another building that definitely needs some attention and work towards it. And then also, looking at the continual upkeep and maintenance of our brand new K-2 is definitely a concern that has been out there as well. It was a large building. It takes a lot of, time and upkeep to it that I think, definitely needs to be put on a high priority list. I think as a result of all of this, we really would like to see kind of that long-term plan and what this looks like on both sides for both towns. How are we going to prioritize these things moving forward?
All right. Thank you. Laura, right?
Yes.
did I forget someone or not? And I did. So go ahead, Laura. Thank you.
No, that's all right. So as a Rainham resident, I will say the Rainham, the Merrill and the Liberty, particularly the Merrill School, is our biggest capital need right now. I think it's difficult because it's actually not a district issue. It's a town issue. And Rainham is up against some tough financial situations. I'm sure as Bridgewater can relate. There's potential a new police station in Rainham. Raynham has to pay for the BP schools, and so it's a really tough fight within Raynham to suggest building a new school. There has been, conversations with the town of Raynham about this, because to build a new school would take, anywhere from 8 to 10 years approximately to go through that process. But I will say is that within Raynham, in particular at the Merrill School, it is an older school. There is lots of new development happening in Raynham right now. And as of we speak to this day is our classrooms are full. We have no more space. And with new development happening and more kids and families moving into town is where the kids go. And when there's no classrooms,
That's not for you, sorry.
there's no classrooms, it gets really, really difficult. And the only option kind of in Raynham right now is, having, kind of those art classes be on kind of movable. And so you're taking away that class space for art to be able to put a classroom in there. So it will take some tough conversations and some tough budget conversations with the town of Raynham and with the residents of Raynham to be able to move forward with a new school, which is desperately needed at this point.
Okay, thank you. We have time for another question, so we're going to go ahead and do that.
All righty. Who started?
It was Tim, so I think
Okay,
I'm gonna go
Mike, this one's for you first. Do you think the district is financially prepared to handle the impact of an influx of students arriving from other countries? What about a decrease in enrollment?
One, I don't think any district is ready for a significant increase, especially when it happens mid-year. I think, right now in being at some of the past meetings for the committee, they're looking at grant funds coming in to help support this. But I don't think it's anything that a district is necessarily able to shift mid-year when you have an influx of students. It's going to increase class sizes, sometimes increase the need for more teachers. Looking at the populations that were coming in, we're probably going to need an increase in English teachers for English language learners. So I think at any time that happens anywhere, it's really hard to adjust and shift and make those changes so that we can support those students in the best way possible. Especially a decrease in enrollment at the same time impacts the district and really makes it tougher to really especially make that budget meet. The per pupil expenditures we receive only will decrease at that point. And once again, we will hopefully not be looking at cuts, but I think it's one thing that does happen when these things occur.
Laura?
So I would echo my peers. I don't think any district is prepared as much. And the state is reimbursing us for the immigrants and the new students that are coming in, but that's really kind of after the fact that that funding is coming in. We are upfronting the cost to pay for English language learners, teachers, and transportation. In the big picture, we have a small amount of new students or immigrants that have come into the district compared to other cities. We have around, I think, 28 kids that have come into the district. So they're across all different grade levels. So we have been able to absorb them, but there still is an impact on our district financially. But the funds come after the fact. I think some of the biggest issue is teachers and staffing to support them and where to find them, because you have to go hire or temporarily hire someone. I think around the issue around decreased enrollment, I will say is, and I've looked at this a lot over the last few years and kind of trended this, is initially we had some drop in enrollment over the last 10 years, but over the last 3 or 4, we have actually seen an increase in enrollment in Bridgewater Raynham, where many districts across the state are actually seeing a decrease and having to close schools. We are seeing an increase, and that's, you talk about the development that's happening in Raynham and a little bit in Bridgewater. As we continue to have more and more families come in, this gets back to some of the capital issue and the space within our schools. But a decrease of enrollment, it could happen to any within the district, and it does impact the budget. So it's something to continually think about, and something that I've really focused on, particular, 8th graders leaving our district and where are they going, and how can we work with those families and those kids to, if you will, entice them to stay within the district. So it's something we've had conversations about. It's a conversation that I particularly had at the high school level with the principal at the high school and getting Raynham Middle School kids to come over to the high school and to see the high school, in their 8th grade year. So they actually want to be at Bridgewater High School.
Same question, Tim.
The question was, are we ready for a large influx of students from other countries? And the answer is both Mike and Laura suggested is no. I mean, just no, period. They pointed out all the other things that go into that, and it's not just adding another student to the classroom. It's making sure that that student, because we have to, by law, and we have to, as a moral obligation, educate a student if they show up at our school, right? We're not going to turn someone away. And so, but that does come with a cost, and we don't have the funding. We've talked about the funding earlier tonight. We don't have the funding to magically wave a wand and produce that money. And what the state's going to give you is not going to be enough. We've established that through years and years of dealing with the state on various things. So while it helps, it doesn't solve the problem. A decrease in enrollment, I mean, could it happen? Yes, I guess anything could happen. But with the what I know of expansion of some housing projects in Raynham, a little thing called Duxborough being built off of Curve Street in Bridgewater, potential of putting many apartments downtown here in Bridgewater. We're only looking at enrollment going up, I think. So, I'm not sure what we would think if it started to go down. It would be quite a bad sign for the district, I think.
All right. 1 minute.
Yep. So then we'll let you all do a 1-minute kind of closing statement, and we will start with who should we start?
We can start with Laura. Ladies
Okay.
first.
Thanks, I think. I don't know if it's always good to go first or not. I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak for folks. I would hope that you would vote for me come April. I'm committed to the district. I'm committed to supporting the kids and the families in this district. And as someone that values public education and has had as a parent with kids both have had kids in the elementary, the middle school, and the high school in the district, I hope that you would come out and vote for me and show your support.
Thank you. Tim?
Sure. I'll repeat what I said at the beginning. My name's Tim Fitzgibbons. I'm running for the Bridgewater Raynham School Committee. I'd appreciate one of your 2 votes on April 27th. I think we've had a great discussion here tonight, and I hope everyone at home has been informed about just what some of the challenges are facing the district. I look forward to facing them with my colleagues on the school committee and doing the best job we can for you, the residents, taxpayers, and most especially the students of the towns of Bridgewater and Raynham as we move forward these next 3 years. Thank you for your consideration.
Mike?
So again, I'm Michael Loesch, and I would appreciate the second of your 2 votes. You could also find my social media on Facebook at Loesch for BR School Committee, and that's FOR. I really look forward to the potential of just really being able to be on kind of the other side of the table for the committee, to collaborate with the district and potentially my colleagues here, really just to give our students, our families, and just both towns the best schools we can. I'm going to have kids in this district for quite some time, so I really have a lot invested here and want to see them get the best education they can.
Great.
Thank you. No,
Huh?
you can do it.
All right. Well, again, we want to thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
We are done. So we're going to pause and we're going to bring in the library trustees. But again, we wanted to thank our candidates and we wish you luck.
Thank you very much.
Upcoming
Thank
election, April 27th.
Yeah.
Yes. All
April
right.
27th, sooner than you know.
Thank you. We'll be back shortly.
Thank you.
Oh, look at us.
Come up on our hosts here. Mike's alive. 3, 2, 1.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So tonight is the candidate forum, but right now we're going to work with Russ Hannigan here with library trustees. So what we're going to do is first have him do his 3-minute opening statement, and then we'll follow that up with a few questions that we'll have him answer for us. So we'll start out with Russ, and your 3-minute statement, please.
Thank you. My name is Russ Hannigan, and I am running for library trustee here in Bridgewater. I've lived in Bridgewater for a little over 2 years, moved to town with my wife and my stepdaughter. I'm a veteran of the United States Army from 1985 to 1989 with the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service as a 71 Romeo MOS. I served at Fort Bragg, Fort Knox, Fort Ben Harrison, Palmerol Air Base, Honduras, and the Yongsan Army Garrison in Seoul, Korea. I'm a graduate of Carteret High School, Carteret, New Jersey, and Boston University School of Public Communications, Broadcasting and Film class of 1985. Prior to living in Bridgewater, I worked and lived in East Bridgewater for the town of East Bridgewater as a director of PEG Access for 20 years as of this year. I've worked with town budgets and town departments extensively, and previously I served a 1.5 term as the library trustee in East Bridgewater and served 1 term on the East Bridgewater Arts Council. I am a member of the Bridgewater Citizens Club and the Bridgewater Veterans Club. I'm also a gym rat at the Bridgewater Fitness Center. My stepdaughter is a nurse at Mass General Hospital in Boston. My wife was a registered nurse and hospice nurse with Brighton Hospice. Sonia, my wife, passed away about 1 year and 9 months ago from stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Now, my wife did teach me that you should always give back to the community that you live in, and I feel that I can be of help to the Bridgewater Public Library and help it thrive. I'm a big believer that librarians are the generals in the war against ignorance and illiteracy, and they are part of one of our most treasured institutions of any community. As a library trustee, it would be my duty to supply them with materials to help them win this war. And if elected, I will initiate greater outreach to the community from the library by working with my fellow trustees and the library staff. I can be found on my Facebook page entitled Russ Hannigan for Bridgewater Library Trustee. So thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you, Russ. So we're going to start out with a couple of questions. I'm going to have Lauren pick the first one here, and we'll have a little conversation with Russ.
Okay.
Awesome. So your first question is, how have libraries influenced your life?
Very greatly. I started in Carteret. Carteret's a very small town. I always joke that it's not even a town, it's a borough. Our library was a house, and on the first floor were the adult section. In the basement was the children's section, and the archives were in the attic. Some of my happiest memories were spent at the library reading, although my mother always said I read too many of the Mad magazines. But libraries are the one place in this community, in any community, where you're not there to purchase anything, you're not there to sell anything, you're there to learn, to strengthen your social skills, and to improve yourself. And I think that's why it's so important that a community's library be a thriving location. Libraries helped me with my education, and I want to continue to do that for other folks who are growing up, folks who are, in their later years and learning technology. I love walking into a library because there's always something different going on, and that's why I find it just so much fun.
All right. Thank you, Russ. Next one. What is your opinion on book banning? What criteria would be required to ban a book in Bridgewater?
Okay. This is a very serious question, and it requires a very serious answer. And I'm going to tell the truth, so this may scare people. I strongly don't believe in banning books because I can't remember any situation where the good guys were on the side of banning a book. Knowledge is important and should be out there. But I also don't believe it should be up to the library trustees to ban a book. The whole purpose of the trustees is to hire staff who have been trained and educated in handling a library. Now, certain books, obviously, you're not going to have children read, and they should be in the adult section. And conversely, I don't see children's books being in the adult section, but I don't think banning books should be done, in my opinion, because blocking knowledge just makes people ignorant and illiterate. I think that it should be the decision of the librarians where books are placed. And I think more knowledge is more power, and more power is better for the community. So I would have to say, at least from my viewpoint, it shouldn't be up to the library trustees to ban books. It should be up to the library staff, as long as they are picked and trained, to determine where books should be placed but not banned.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. All righty. What are the critical issues you see facing the Bridgewater Board of Trustees? If elected, how would you work to address them?
I think there are many issues, but the one issue that comes up, and I know this because I work in the local government in East Bridgewater, the primary issue is always going to be budget and how to budget money correctly. And I think one of the tasks of the library trustees and the staff of the library should be different revenue streams. This can be done through grants. This can be done through working with the community to improve it. I think grant writing is very important. Other issues, community outreach, I think is important. Folks that I spoke to that were nice enough to sign my paperwork so that I could run for office, one of the issues that was brought up to me was the roof of the Bridgewater Library that needs to be fixed. And also one of the comments that was given to me was more story times for children. So I think those, they don't seem like huge issues, but I think it's important that the community's voice be heard. And in that case, I'd like to see more story times for the kids, more activities, community outreach. This is one perfect example here, using the local public access station to get the word out to the community. I think if I was an elected library trustee, I would use this as a resource to get information out to the community for the library. And conversely, maybe a live phone-in show where they could call in and give their opinions on what they would like to see done at the library using the Access Center.
All right.
Thank you.
Next one. Libraries are often the hub of our communities. What are your ideas to make our library the hub of our community?
I'm going to sound a little redundant here, but definitely community outreach activities
Okay.
in the library. I think the Bridgewater Library, by the way, for the record, is a beautiful library, and that's one of the reasons why I want to help the library out. Community outreach, I sound like I keep slamming this over and over again, but you can have all the great activities in the world, and if people don't know about them, then you're not going to have participation. And I think the important thing is to get the community to participate in the library and to find ways to interlink what's going on in the library with different groups. I know one thing that we did in East Bridgewater was we had movie nights outside the theater, outside the library on the lawn. We showed, I'm trying to remember the name of the movie. It's with As You Wish. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father.
The Princess Bride.
The Princess Bride. Thank you. I couldn't remember the name.
Good for you.
And the library brought out little props for the kids to use, and parents wanted to attend because they love the film. And I thought that was a wonderful activity. I'd love to see that kind of stuff happen. Interacting with the community, getting the community involved is going to be a tough part, but I think with working with the library staff, the library trustees can do that. So.
Do you know if there's any current programs that were there that similar to what you're suggesting?
At Bridgewater Library?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, and I'm a little nervous tonight.
That's okay.
I have to say.
Just curious.
I'm going to remember 20 minutes after this show is over, and then I'll have to call you at 3 in the morning and tell you.
Please do.
But I think things like creative ideas like panic rooms where kids have to find a way out, activities for different holidays. I think there's plenty of things. Bringing in guest speakers to talk about everything from dinosaurs. I don't care how many generations go, but young kids love to talk about dinosaurs, love to have guest speakers about dinosaurs. Magicians, balloon animal makers, all sorts of things to get the kids involved. And I think once you get the kids involved, you're going to get their parents involved as well, because they're going to come by and attend with their children. And I think you can also have adult events where you can have one of the things that's done in East Bridgewater, which I'd like to see done in Bridgewater, things like a Civil War roundtable, historical lectures. And Bridgewater has a lot of wonderful history that can be discussed. So more things like that.
And then it's just about getting the word out about what you're doing over there, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's important.
Do you want to do the next question?
Sure. Oh no, it's our last one.
Sure.
How would you help raise awareness? We sort of touched on this about the programming and services available at the library. I know you've talked about community outreach.
Yes.
So what does community outreach look like?
Community outreach looks like on many different scales. It can be having the library trustees attend other events around town. If there's, I keep using examples in East Bridgewater, and it's just because I was a library trustee there at one time. They still do, as far as I know, a commercial club business expo. So if there are any sorts of expos or examples, and I know that you have Christmas on the Common here in Bridgewater. I'm still a newbie here. I've only lived here for a little over 2 years, but I think I would have a booth at Christmas on the Common for the library so that it could highlight some of the books and special activities at different events where a table is there and library trustees or library volunteers or friends of the Bridgewater Library could attend and show people, hey, here's things that we're doing at the library. We'd like to invite you to attend.
There's also the Autumn Fest too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I'm looking forward to.
And
by
4th
the
of
way.
July.
Yeah.
And 4th of July, don't forget that.
The fireworks in Bridgewater.
You also mentioned, I think BTV is an outreach. Did you
Yes.
not? How would you see that? Like, what panning out? Like, what would that be? What would it look like?
Well, I'd love to see a monthly talk show or a live monthly talk show where folks could call in with questions about the library and where trustees could feature stuff that's going on at the library. I know from East Bridgewater as well as Bridgewater, some library staff are kind of cringeworthy when it comes to being in front of cameras. I'm not going to push someone to do something they're uncomfortable with, but I've been working in the industry, at least in East Bridgewater, for 20 years and another 20 years before that in other communities and other aspects. So I'd be more than willing to be the face of the library if they want me to. If they don't want me to, if there's someone else out there who wants to, by all means, I encourage my other library trustees to do that as well. I also think public service announcements could be made for the library on little things like how to check out an ebook or how to use the DVD and CD collection at libraries.
And I think maybe it's because I also spend a lot of my time communicating things. There's usually an assumption people know what a library is and know what it has to offer, but like it might not be as accurate because technology has changed, offerings have changed, needs in the community have changed. So you have to be a little creative about it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I agree. And that's where public service announcements, 30 and 60-second spots on the air, showing different features that people may not know about. And those PSAs could not just only be aired on BTV, but also be put on the website for the library and also on Facebook pages and things like that. Getting the word out through social media, not just television, but through different forms of social media, through Instagram, through TikTok, through all sorts of different social media would help.
All right.
Can you name, this wasn't in the prepared questions. I guess what's a book that sort of changed your life and did you get it from the library?
I think when I first got my library card, that was, for me, that was a paradigm shift. Again, coming from a small town in New Jersey to have a place I could go to and be able to read books and be able to check things out was a big deal for me. And I think another library was the Woodbridge Library, which was 2 towns over, much bigger. It was huge compared to our little house. Walking in there for the first time, and this was back in the 1970s, just it amazed me how many different books and how many different resources and things like that. And as you said, the library has changed so much. I think if you took someone from the 1970s and put them into a library today, they wouldn't recognize just all the different sources and resources. You know, I know a joke one of my friends once said, if you want to look something up, you can look to Google. But if you want to get the correct answer, you go to a librarian.
Because it's what in the book versus something what someone can edit on Google.
Precisely.
Mm.
So I'm a big fan of librarians and I'm a big fan of libraries. I know when I was overseas and used the libraries on post, it was my one little way to get a taste of home was reading detective novels and books that were based in Boston so that I could get a feel for being at home even though I was away from home. So that's another way libraries just were wonderful for me because I could check out these books and get a taste for being back in Massachusetts.
All right. Anything else?
If you want to just do a closing statement, and we'll be all set.
Well, I just want to thank everyone out there for watching this program. I want to thank Bridgewater Television for hosting this program. I want to thank you guys for asking me some really good questions. And I look forward, I hope, to being a member of the Library Trustees and to helping the community. And I'd just like to say thank you for watching this program, and I hope that you will vote for me in the April election in Bridgewater. And I look forward to serving the community and helping folks with the library.
Thank you so much, Russ.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that does it for us. And thanks again, Russ and Lauren. Great job.
Thank you.
So that ends our candidate forum, and I think we're done because this is our last session.
This is
right?
our last session for
Yes.
this year.
So we just want to wish all of our candidates out there that came to the studio, and if you didn't, you do have the opportunity here at BTV to create your own little video where they publish for you and get your name out there. So again, thank you everyone for running, and thank you for watching tonight.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.